I've been practicing law here in Arizona for 25 years, and one of the biggest false statements that I've heard all those years is that when it comes to DUIs here, drinking and driving cases in Arizona, that Arizona is a strict liability state. Arizona is not a strict liability state, and in this video I'm going to talk about why. My name is Darren Woodfork, and I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I've been practicing law here, like I said, for about 25 years. I started off as a public defender, went out on my own in 2002, opened up this practice. And in the beginning, when I was out on my own, I did a lot of DUI cases. And again, one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that Arizona is a strict liability state, and it's not. I mean, there are some reasons why people might think that, but it's not. When I say strict liability under the law, that basically has a specific term, and that means that there's no defense. And so if a real strict liability issue is like when you have like a dog bite case, or you have a gun at a school, things like that, those are strict liability where there's like no defense. But DUI is not like that. Basically, and if you have an old DUI conviction here in Arizona, my firm specializes in sealing old misdemeanor cases or old DUI cases. So if you have an old DUI conviction here, please get in touch with my law firm. The number is 602-284-3035, and I can help you expunge that old DUI case if you have one here in Arizona. But on to the strict liability aspect of it. The reason why Arizona is not strict liability is because the legal limit in Arizona is 0.8. At a 0.08 blood alcohol level, the law presumes that you're too drunk to drive. So under 0.8, the law does not presume that you're under the influence of intoxication. In fact, in a DUI trial, there's going to be a jury instruction that basically says if the blood alcohol level is under 0.5, you can presume that the person is not under the influence. If the blood alcohol level is between 0.5 and 0.8, there's no presumption at all. It's a wash. And then over 0.8, the legal limit, that's when you're presumed to be too intoxicated to drive. So that's what the law is. The law is over 0.8. Arizona also has a couple of other laws. We have an extreme law at 0.15, and then a super extreme at 0.20. But as far as 0.8 goes, that's the limit, so that essentially you could be under the 0.8 limit and have a defense to the DUI, because the DUI limit is 0.8. So therefore, DUI is not strict liability here in Arizona. However, the only time there is strict liability is when you're dealing with somebody driving who's under 21. If they're under the legal age to drink, if they're in a car under the influence of alcohol, then there is strict liability. Then they cannot have a drop of alcohol in their system behind the wheel of a car. But an adult over 21, you can have a drop of alcohol in your system, get pulled over for drinking and driving. But if you're under 0.8, you're not going to be charged. You're not going to be convicted. I mean, I guess they could charge you, but most of the time they'll drop a case like that if it's under 0.8, way under 0.8 anyway. Also, a few other exceptions, and these aren't even strict liability cases. These are just lower standards. If you're driving a commercial vehicle or you're a pilot, you can't behind the drinking level is 0.4, which is basically half of that 0.8. So if you're a pilot or a commercial driver, you can't have any alcohol in your system that goes over 0.4. So, but that's not strict liability. That's not saying that you need a drop of alcohol in their system, or they can't have a drop of alcohol in their system. Now, with all that said, though, probably definitely the best course of action is not to drink and drive at all. But the law is that you have to be over 0.8 to be presumed over the legal limit to drive. And then finally, I will say, and again, in fairness, like I've always said, why people might think that Arizona is strict liability is because there is a law in Arizona that says you can be convicted of a DUI if you're intoxicated to the slightest degree. That language, the slightest degree, I guess, means that you can be convicted for a drop of alcohol in your system. But in the real world, if you have a drop of alcohol in your system, the prosecutors are not going to charge you with that slightest degree charge by itself. I have not seen that in 25 years, and I don't know anybody's ever dealt with a case where you're charged with slightest degree by itself in an alcohol case. Those cases are kind of thrown in with a drug case like marijuana, things like that. If you're driving with marijuana in your system, things like that, that's when slightest degree comes into effect, practically speaking. But in an alcohol case, I've never seen anybody charged with driving under the influence to the slightest degree for like a 0.02 blood alcohol level or something like that. But they do charge that in every case of it's 08 or 10 or any DUI case. If you're extreme DUI at 0.15, they'll charge it 15, they'll charge it 08, and then they'll charge the slightest degree. They charge all 3 counts. So that's where the slightest degree comes in. And then it's kind of hard to win at trial because you have to run the table on all those counts. And then a lot of times the jury will acquit on the top 0.15 or the 08 or something like that, but then they convict on the slightest degree count because it says the slightest degree. But that's how, again, people might think that Arizona is zero tolerance, but it's not. Again, that's just kind of the quirk, I guess, in the law where that slightest degree language. So anyway, that's all I have to say today about, again, that Arizona's DUI laws. Arizona is very strict, though. With all that said, Arizona is one of the only states here where you go to jail on your very first DUI conviction, and you do. And so, Arizona does not, they don't tolerate drinking and driving, but it's not a strict liability case. You still have defenses if you're pulled over for a DUI. So hope that helps. Again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or shoot me an email at derronw@msn.com, or you can check out my website at woodforklaw.com and be more than happy to answer any questions. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. Thanks.